Peak Wealth Management proudly presents the Trust the Plan podcast with Nick Hopwood and Jim Pilot, where we believe by providing education and guidance, we can help you retire with peak confidence. Now, here are your certified financial planners, Nick and Jim.
Welcome everyone to the Trust the Plan podcast. I'm Nick Hopwood, and I'm joined by a familiar face with the podcast, Mr. Evan Chopp. He is a points enthusiast and also known as an overall knowledgeable guy.
Yeah.
So welcome back.
Big compliment from Jim last time I was here. I've held on to that for a year, so we'll see if I can keep up that status as an overall knowledgeable guy today. So
yeah.
Thanks for having me back.
You bet. Absolutely. I mean, I just rewatched what we did last year, and it still is like just a waterfall, a fire hose of information. So I have absorbed some of it, though.
Yeah.
But now we can kind of hear it again, going deeper, and maybe take even more advantage.
Sure. Yeah. Sound
good.
Yep. You definitely became a case study over the past handful of weeks.
Right. So we can talk about what I've done, maybe as a case study, but then what my next steps would be if I were following Evan's plan, and that's getting points, using the credit card bonuses, and redeeming them for max value. So up until Evan and I started talking about this, I was using a cash back card for 2.5% cash back, and I was happy. But it turns out, right, there's even ways to do better than 2.5%, especially if you're paying attention to these bonuses. So one more second before I start asking Evan questions. I was also in the Delta Echo chamber, or whatever you want, ecosystem. And so by using that Delta Reserve card with the Amex card, I was able to leverage the card spend to get diamond status. And after all the upgrades and everything, companion certificates and first class free stuff, I figure it was worth about $10,000.
Yeah.
That Delta diamond status. Would you agree?
If you could, yeah, it's very possible to use the certificates and maximize it to that.
Yeah.
The question then, though, becomes that I would ask is then how much did you spend and how many points did you get out of that? Worse, if that was multiple sign-up bonuses, could it have been put different, which is why we kind of jumped into the case study today.
So we could be even more efficient because if I reach diamond status, say in June, well, then maybe you start using a different card in July.
He's getting it. He gets it.
Okay, so that leads us to Chase, right?
Yep. So this, I think this came up because Nick had been talking to me a little bit more since the last time we had this in. An offer came up. So there's the Chase Sapphire Preferred, which is a very popular card in the points ecosystem. And I'll hopefully be able to explain that why. But they came out with like a once in every 4-year offer. So the offer was 100,000 points for a certain amount of spend. I think it was 4 or 5K spend over a 3-month period of time. So as long as you could make that spend, you could generate 1,000 or 100,000 points for a card that only has a $95 annual fee. So for most folks, this would be a no-brainer as long as you could find a way to spend that amount and not put yourself in debt. Again, I'll throw my disclaimer out. All of my plans and suggestions are all connected to you should not be carrying debt on a credit card. If you are, that this is not kind of the podcast for you. So let me throw that disclaimer out. But this is a great opportunity for those that can spend $5,000 over 3 months and pay off their credit card debt to earn 100,000 points. So why is 100,000 points a big deal? First and foremost, you could just take the 100,000 points immediately and you could cash them out for $1,000. So if I told you could sign up for a credit card that costs $99 a month and get $1,000 out of it, does that sound different or more appealing to you?
$99 a year.
$99 a year, Yep. But again, with any of these sign-up bonuses, you do have to carry the card for a year in most cases, but if you cancel it after the year, there's usually no penalty. I'll hopefully show you today why this card and many cards you can keep and justify the annual expense of the benefits that they provide.
And so this bonus offer came up. It's gone now.
It is gone now, unfortunately. Yep.
But we took advantage of it, right?
Yeah, you did. Nick definitely took advantage of it.
I think Jim took advantage of it, right?
Jim took advantage of it. There's a handful, and Nick even got so excited. In the hobby we call your spouse is a player too. I think Nick even got his player to her spouse involved on it too.
That was worth another 10,000 free points as
referral. Referrals are another way to generate points. See, Nick's already learning a lot over the year. He's learned a lot. But what I hope today is, one, I'll first kind of start in terms of how the card doesn't actually cost you $100 a year, and I'll hopefully give you some tips and tricks that apply to the Chase Sapphire card, but also apply to multiple other credit cards out there. I'll then hopefully be able to take you through how to, at minimum, to get out of that $100,000 bonus $100,250 worth of travel. But then I'll also hopefully be able to show you how you could get way more than that by transfer partners, and I'll give you a couple examples on the transfer partners that we use.
All right, so first thing is, like you said, it's worth cash.
Yep.
But how can we get more than a dollar a point or whatever the?
Yeah, let me show this really quick. I'll kind of scroll. There's a whole bunch of things that cards get loaded on. So one of the first things I'll tell you about ways to offset the fee is this card comes with a $50 hotel credit when you book it through the portal. So anytime, my wife and I use this mostly, like we need a one-night stay somewhere. We know we've got this credit, so you book it through the Chase portal. You get 5 points per dollar when you book through the Chase portal, so that's a good value already, 5% back. But at minimum, you're getting $50 credit on that. So if you use that hotel credit every year, there's already $50 with a $100 fee. I never got into DoorDash. I actually think it's to my financial thing. I think it's actually a waste of money.
It's the worst.
So let me first throw out this disclaimer that I think it's a total waste of money. Just drive to the place and get your food. But if you are somebody that spends money on DoorDash, it gives you the Dash Pass free every month, which is a $10 value per month, so $120 a year. It also gives you a $10 credit. So I gamify everything in this hobby, and essentially I'll order something that's for $10, use my $10 credit every month, and just do it in that way. So I still can actually maximize the value in it. I just use those $10 credits.
So when the soggy fries show up, they're free.
Yeah. Yeah, essentially. I use it. This is actually a different thing. I use it more for like groceries. Like I'll get like when we're out of milk or bananas or things like that. I'll use it for that because they offer it, and then I get $10 free. I get it right to $10 pin, and I flip it. So either way, that's more advanced. But I'm just saying, for some that use it, there's that. You also like there's benefits with Lyft and connecting it to your Lyft program. And then this is one that I always tell people. I told Nick and Jim this is 3 points per dollar, so 3% back. On streaming services and dining. So if you don't, the only card that's really better than that is the Amex Gold card. So if you don't have a great dining card, this is a really good card to use when you go dine out because it's 3 points per dollar on dining. And then I put all of my services like Netflix, any of the streaming services that I have, I put at this because it also earns 3% back. Mm-hmm. And then last but not least, at the end of the year, you get a 10% bonus on everything that you spend on it. So really you can think about this instead of earning, if it was a 3% dining category, instead of earning just 3%, you're earning like 3.1% back. So you get a 10% bonus kicker at the end of the year. Yeah. So those are just some ways between the hotel credit, DoorDash, the $10 a month in DoorDash credit, and then some of the bonus perks, the ways to offset the $99 fee and have it become a kind of a keeper card.
A keeper card. And also, you're going to get into transferring points. You have to keep it for that too.
Yeah, there's 2 cards with Chase, really 3 cards that you have to have in order to enable transfer to transfer partners. So the reason why this one is also big in the points ecosystem is you have to have this card in order to transfer to other companies, and I'll show that shortly.
Gotcha. Okay, so we have the cashback cards. We have these special spending categories, and which you just talked about, like groceries and eating out and like that. And
there's one more thing here.
And we talked about the bonus as well.
Yeah, there's one more thing before we jump to because I do want to show this. So I'm not affiliated this with all, but if you have not looked at your credit cards are coupon books. I have this thing called card pointers, and what this does is it adds all the coupons to all of my credit cards. So in the example up above, I have a Hyatt card, for example, and this year I've saved $61 just on clipping the coupons or the offers in it. And then over to the right, you can see with my Amex card, I've had a 780. There's 244 offers just on that Amex card. To go through and click the button for everything would be tedious. This app called Card Pointers adds all of these coupons automatically for you. And it adds them to all cards. So like on my insurance this year, I paid it with the different Amex cards, and I had a $20 offer on all my Amex cards. So I just split up my insurance payment. It loaded it to all the cards, and it was a $100 value just through this app and loading it to all. So it's a really interesting way. All I'd say on this, I could go really deep on this topic. I won't. Every one of your cards is essentially a coupon book or card offers connected to it. In many cases, it's places you're already spending money on. You just have to, quote unquote, clip the coupon in order to do that. I use this app to do it for me.
And for people that are like, that's great, Evan, but I don't have the time to mess with these $10 coupons here and there. This takes care of it.
100% takes care of it for you. It is a paid service. I actually paid for the lifetime service of it. It was like $160 because I've already gotten that worth it.
Clearly.
And I never have to click it. I just sign into my account and it clips them all for me.
Okay.
It's great.
Yeah, very nice. Okay. So now what I'm really interested
Yes.
in, though, is getting the big rewards with the travel partners.
Yep.
That's what interests me the most.
Yeah, I love it. So again, for everybody, because sometimes the transfer could be intimidating for some. I think it's fairly easy. It could be intimidating. Let me show you the first easiest alternative. And this is the Chase Travel Portal. This is just like any Expedia. Actually, they use Expedia as their background browser. But like this is just going to a website and booking a hotel, booking a flight. You just put in the flight and all of that kind of stuff. And when you're redeeming your Chase points, you at minimum get 1.25%. So on the 100,000 points, you would at minimum get 125,000 points worth of value or $1,250 worth of value.
And I've played around in this already. I haven't used it, but I've played around in it. And I looked up a hotel that we stayed at last year, and this bonus that my wife and I got would have covered a whole week at an all-inclusive place in Costa Rica.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, wow, that was pretty worthwhile doing this sign-up bonus.
Right. Because $100 card, you've now gotten minimum $1,250 worth of value.
It was like $4,000 worth of value.
Right.
So
that's even better. So
and that was through the portal.
That's great. Sometimes there's discounts.
Didn't have to transfer anything.
Yeah, that's great. So in this example, what I did is I tried to show. Unfortunately, I didn't combine my accounts, and I wasn't going to do this for this presentation. So this one account I had 80,000 points. So in this Hyatt, I just picked it out for example. It would have normally cost like $1,543. And again, this is with non-refundable too. So the refundable rate would even be more, and that'll be important for in a second. But it would have cost me 80,000 points and $537. So the reason I didn't have enough points to cover the whole thing, so it would still put the 80,000 points, giving me over $1,000 worth of value at 1.25, but I still would have had to pay the $537.
Yeah, that's a whole night's worth. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, I just didn't have enough points. But this is example. Still, I'm getting 1.25 at minimum on this example. Important. That's the worst you should ever do with the points in Chase. Don't use it for gift cards. Don't use it to cash out. The worst you should ever do on a Chase point is 1.25, and you could get that through the portal.
And this is Alaska, and you did this trip, right?
I'm going to do this trip. Good memory. All right, this is where it gets, in my opinion, it gets exciting. So this was 80,000 points and $537 that I would need to pay for this Hyatt hotel. Hyatt's a transfer partner of Chase. So in this case, I could take my Chase points and transfer them to Hyatt. It's a very easy process where you go in, you select what you want to transfer, and it just moves the points over. So this exact same room for the exact same nights, it would cost me $1,500, or the non-refundable rate would be $1,677. On the cash and points deal that I told you, it was 80,000 points at 1.25% and $537. Or, as you can see, my head's blocking it. It's over my shoulder here. For 54,000 Hyatt points, I could get the non-refundable room for 54,000 points. So that 54,000 points would have been about 3 cents per point, or I would have gotten 3% back by using my Chase points transferred to Hyatt to then book the exact same room.
Arbitrage.
Yeah. So this is all, the whole piece of having this, what I kind of call flexible currency, which I talked about in the last episode. I didn't know I would want this for Hyatt points, but now I find a hotel property I have this flexible currency that I can move to a multitude of different things. So now I can move it to Hyatt to be able to maximize this value.
So you're spending money on the card, getting sometimes 3 cents, right?
Yep.
Value, and then redeeming for 3 cents. So it's like 6 cents.
Yeah.
Instead of just the 1% standard deal that most people have.
100%.
6x.
100%. And that is more common. And then we're not even factoring in the bonus. The bonus made your spend like a 15 or 16 or 17% back. I didn't extrapolate out that math, but the bonus alone is a massive percent back.
Yeah, it would be like $10,000 of spend, which you're going to spend anyway, and getting like a $4,000 free trip out of it.
Yeah.
All you got to do is get there, in my case.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where the hobby becomes so exciting is it unlocks a whole bunch of different stuff for you.
So the wheels are turning, right?
Yep.
And so I'm thinking, okay, I got the Delta done. I got all these Chase points. And then I'm getting bombarded, right, in the mail, email, do this, do that for more Chase points. And I'm thinking, hey, let's do it, right? So, but then I start thinking, well, I don't want to have all these annual fees. They add up over time. You forget about it. you have your method of addressing that, but there are sign-up bonuses without annual fee cards, right?
Yeah, 100%. So that's, again, why the Chase has become a really popular brand in this, because they have multiple cards that you could use to complement your Chase Preferred or your Chase Sapphire. Those are the two cards you need for transfer. On the business side, it's the Chase Preferred that can transfer. On the personal side, it's the Chase Sapphire. So you have the Chase Sapphire now. Especially, again, this is where the business card and personal card comes in. There's some great business cards that are no annual fee. Like there's the Business Cash Unlimited. That's 1.5% back on everything with a $75,000 bonus. So again, you could do a play of having a business card. It's 1.5x back on everything, so you don't have to think about what you're purchasing, and it's a $75,000 sign-up bonus.
I'm in it for the bonus.
Yeah, so no annual fee on that card
Yeah.
also. So there's two nice things about it: is no annual fee and spend. And the bonuses on the business front are way bigger than on the personal front.
Interesting. So you can, apply for a bunch of these, but then Chase says, hey, hold on a second, pump the brakes. They have the rule of X number of cards, and that's fine. But then I'm getting bombarded by Capital One and by Citi, right? All the big players.
Yep. That's where, again, that's the difference. That's probably a different episode because they all have different transfer partners and they all have different bonuses. Again, so I'm in all of the ecosystems of that at this point. In terms of the main ones are American Express, Chase, Capital One, and Citi. Those are kind of the four main transfer partners that all can earn and then transfer over.
So I do have a Capital One card that I've used for many years, and it's sitting there with like 73,000 points, and haven't really done anything with it. But I noticed that they do have the travel partners, just like Chase does with Virgin and Air France, I think.
Yep. And let me show one of these, because this could be a great use of your Capital One. Capital One is most people are a partner with Virgin. Virgin, especially for us Detroit-based people, could be great for domestic travel. There's so many different things. This is just one example of.
I was thinking of Virgin for
both.
London.
It can be both. Let me be clear. We can talk about that, and I can actually show you a cool tool. There's a really cool tool I use, but this is just an example of Virgin, for example. If I come back up here, these are all the partners that Chase has, and right now, for example, they do this a lot. There's a 25% bonus on transferring to Virgin. So if I transferred 100,000 miles to Virgin, I'd actually get 125,000 miles with Virgin right now. That's a transfer partner they have. So in this example, this is a flight to LA. It's a $300 one-way flight. It costs 27,000 Delta miles. And when I go into Virgin's website, and one of the tools I use is called Seats Arrow that I use to look up where their flight deals are. This would only cost 18,500 points and $5.60 in taxes, same as Delta. But then if I transferred to Virgin and used the 25% bonus, it would only cost me $14,800 or 1,800 points.
Yeah.
So it's essentially 13,000 miles less than if I booked it through Delta.
Is that a premium paid Seat Arrow?
That's a paid service also.
And there's many others like Rome and
Rome. Yep, there's a lot of different things out there. That's been something in the hobby that's kind of popped over the past couple of years, is things to be able to look at your different options for using your points.
You feel like it's worth it?
I do. For me, that one is a little bit more, you have to be educated on how to use the tool. It's a little bit more of an advanced tool, but there's ones like Point where you can just do Daydream Explorer, where you type in the dates that you want to go somewhere and that you have available, and it pops up all the different options. You could say what kind of points you have. So you could say, I just have Chase points, and it'll show you what options they have on those dates that you could use to transfer Chase points. So there's really great tools to help you understand how to maximize your points that are out there.
But you can do it for free if you just know
100%.
what you're doing too.
Yep.
Like I went to the Virgin's Seat Finder or whatever they call it, and it's like they don't fly Detroit to London, but if you can get to New York, JFK to London, and it's like the equivalent of Delta One.
Yep, it is Delta One
for like 35,000 miles one way.
Yep.
But it would be like a $4,000 Delta ticket,
100%,
and you could do it with 70,000 Chase points, even less with the 25% transfer bonus.
You're getting it.
I mean, it's $200 to get to New York, and then you're flying first class for free, pretty much.
You are totally getting it.
Yeah.
Again, another topic for another day, but there's a big thing about repositioning flights.
So then I started thinking, okay, well, if Delta and Virgin are partners, should I book through Virgin to get the Delta flight? And that's what you're saying. It basically is a Delta flight.
Yeah. In many cases, it is a Delta flight. In this case, the one I used here, this is a Delta flight. You can see the Delta icon right there. So it's a Delta flight with a Delta code. You're just booking it through Virgin and saving 13,000 points. After you book it through Virgin, you can actually go through and put your Delta number on it, and it shows up in your Delta app just like normal. So anytime I book a domestic trip, there's the international stuff, which is for a certain audience like yourself. Maybe I can teach some of that kind of stuff. But there's also these people that are flying domestically constantly. They look at this and it's a certain price, and I could get a family of 4, round trip for 120,000 points or less, to LA on this.
All right, so you're showing the standard coach main cabin here, but if you can fly to London for only 35,000 points, wouldn't you splurge for the Delta One, or do you want to maximize the number of trips and not be in the luxury first class?
That is the great question. That's what I love again about this hobby. Everybody plays the game different. There might be certain trips where for me and my family, I'm fine with doing economy.
Yeah.
Or there might be a great trip that just something opens up that I want to do that. Recently, for example, I just booked with an airline that most of you never even heard of, Cathay Pacific. I booked that first class from Chicago, actually directly to Hong Kong. And so for me to get to Chicago was no big deal, but that's a $8,000 flight that I got for 100,000 American Express miles that I moved to Cathay Pacific. And that was a flight that we're gonna for next year, but that's a flight that I would have never thought of doing. So in that case, for a 14 or 15-hour flight, I decided to do and splurge on that.
So case study question for me, right?
Yeah.
So I have all these Chase and Capital One points now, but I don't have any American Express points because my Amex is tied to Delta.
Yep.
So should I do an Amex card?
I am a big fan, I think, again, in terms of especially how you understand the coupon portion of it. The American Express Gold is a wonderful credit card, and for a lot of families, because you get 4% back on dining and on groceries. So if you think of the two categories that I think most American households spend the most on, those are two of the biggest categories that people spend the most on.
Ooh,
yeah, so you get 4% back on both those categories, and then there's a lot of like coupon type things that make the card, like I explained earlier, not actually cost the $325 that it costs.
Okay, so that one has a mid-range fee.
Yeah, it's a mid-range fee, and I think it's great for like your everyday spending. Usually that comes with a 90,000 American Express bonus, so that's a really good one to get a substantial amount of points. It's great for a lot of our everyday spending categories, and then that unlocks the Amex transfer partners.
Yeah.
So in this case, Cathay Pacific doesn't transfer from Chase. So if I wanted to book that flight, I had to have American Express points to be able to book that.
All right, so maybe that's something I think about versus a hotel card, like Jim
Cards,
did the Marriott one.
Yeah.
Right?
Again, if you're staying at hotels a lot, the reason why I'll come back to what we did for Jim. Jim was doing a lot of things for volleyball at that time, and he was staying at a lot of hotels. In that case, be loyal to that hotel chain.
Okay.
You get really good % back when you're spending on that card in that hotel chain, and it helps you get your status and the perks that he's gotten. So if you have travel and you're staying in hotels a lot, a hotel branded card can be good. If you're playing the game, a hotel card is one of the actual later things you get into.
So you're better off in the Chase portal or the Chase transfer instead of the Hyatt card.
Yep.
At least for now.
Again, Chase points can transfer to Marriott.
Okay.
So if I needed more Marriott points, I could move my Chase points to Marriott.
Yeah. Okay.
Marriott points, actually Marriott's an exception. You can move them places, but it's actually a bad transfer rate. But most hotel currencies, you can't move to another program. So you're stuck with those points.
Do you ever transfer points to a certain vendor and then you can't get it, something happens and you can't get them back?
That is correct. That's why you want to be sure you have everything lined up before you do it. Yep.
Okay.
It's a one-way transfer. If I transfer to the Hyatt example, Hyatt won't send them back to me. But I will say Hyatt is probably the best place to have your excess points. On average, it's hard with Hyatt to not get 2 cents per point. So that's why, and it's a real easy thing. Flights sometimes can be complicated. Hotel bookings are really easy. So that's why a lot of people in the hobby really like Hyatt, because the Chase to Hyatt transfer is a really easy one to get good value.
Okay. What happens? I imagine you have a million cards over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So for yourself, are you still looking at getting sign-on bonuses, or are they all in the past for you? It's over.
No. It's a constant. It's a constant thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it just really is. It's again, I talked about it before. Like, I think it's important to understand what makes up your credit score and the things that impact your credit score. Inquiries is one component of it. In most cases, it's 10% of your credit score is the inquiry line. The rest of the 90% on it is like your utilization. So one of the things when you actually open credit cards, your utilization, so the percent that you're using of the credit is way down. So my credit utilization is only 1%.
So you're protecting your credit score.
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch. This doesn't need to be a credit. Good. Reel me in. I could do a credit.
So basically, the bonuses never stop.
Yeah, you can just keep on going. Yeah.
Okay. Here's my last question for you. Case study for you.
Okay.
Like what's the next deal that you're looking at, or what's a recent deal that you just did? Like maybe the Alaska one, the Hong Kong one, something else that was just like, wow, this is really paying off, and maybe can convince someone that it's worth it to sign up.
Yeah, I mean, I did a couple briefly. The Cafe Pacific one, that was a big one for me and a new one for me. That hit a couple different examples because one, I had to move points from American Express to an airline that I wasn't super familiar with. And I had to get comfortable with, like, I can get to Chicago. Getting to Chicago is no big deal.
So you're just going to drive, or you're going to fly?
I'm going to drive because I can control it more, just do a one-way drive out there. No big deal. And then I can control.
Okay, a one-way car rental?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
There's a lot of interesting things on that, too. We could say. So that was a really nice one. And I will say this. There was only 2 in the first class, so I booked 2. There's 3 of us in my family. My wife's Jen, my daughter's Ava. I booked 2 in the first class, and then I booked 1 in like the premium economy. I'll let the girls have that, no problem. But sometimes there's not 3 seats available at the time of booking. Now I can keep an eye on that and try to upgrade as we get closer, and I will. But in that case, I was willing to do that, and I'll be fine in that premium economy.
So speaking about, that's very generous, by the way.
So by the way, that was like probably 30.
I might not do that.
Yeah.
Just hypothetically.
Ballpark, I would say that was, I spent about, for the 275,000 miles, for about $18,000 to $19,000 worth of flights. Now, would I ever spend $18,000, $19,000 on those flights? No way. But it's an experience that for me and my family, as we've just done it, it creates these moments in time, and all it's from is me being strategic on credit card signups and spend.
Well done. Where were we going? Oh, this was spring break.
Yeah.
So 4 of us, my 5th kid had my 3rd kid had a different spring break. So the 4 of us go to Bahamas and back, and with the diamond status, right? All 4 legs, because there's no direct.
Upgraded.
They're all upgraded. So my wife and I take the upgrades, and then we pay my freshman in high school to babysit my 2nd grader, right?
Yep.
And then we pay the 2nd grader to behave well. And so it all worked out well. There were no complaints, no problems. So I think we have a formula here for the future.
There you go.
Keep the kids in the back. Okay, so Evan, I want to thank you for coming on again. It sounds like we're teeing up the 3rd chapter for the future. Yeah. But stay tuned for next week, because Evan's going to stick around here. Jim's going to be talking with Evan about what he does with his personal finances beyond the points.
Yes. Yeah,
thank you for joining us for that as well.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Really, you can always reach out to Nick or Jim. I really like helping people with this. I just helped a friend with some stuff the other day. I'm doing this. They're not paying me to do this. I just like helping the community with this. And if I can help people maximize their credit card spend to translate to trips, you could repay me with telling me about a great trip that you're able to do. So if there's ever anything I can do to help anybody out there, Peak Wealth's a great financial planning, but they also try to help people personally. So if I can help in any way, please reach out to Nick or Jim, and I'll be happy to help any way I can.
Thanks, Evan.
Yeah, thank you.
Peak Wealth Management thanks you for watching and listening to the Trust the Plan podcast, featuring certified financial planners Nick Hopwood and Jim Pilot. If you enjoyed our program, please subscribe and share. If you'd like to learn more about our services, please visit peakwm.com. peakwm.com today. See you next week.